The news day continues here on One News Now Business. I'm Diego Castro. Here are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate fronts. President Bongbong Marcos has signed the Maharlika Investment Fund bill into law. This comes less than a week before the President's second State of the Nation address. The law establishes a sovereign wealth fund which the government may choose to invest in various outlets. These include foreign currencies, commercial real estate, and infrastructure projects. Economic managers also claim that it will increase the funding for big-ticket agriculture projects.
For the first time in the history of the Philippines, we now have a sovereign wealth fund designed to drive economic development. Through the fund, we will leverage on a small fraction of the considerable but underutilized investable funds of government and stimulate the economy without the disadvantage of adding additional fiscal and debt burden.
Meanwhile, some groups took to the Agriculture Department office in Diliman, Quezon City to protest MIF's prioritization. Bantay Bigas, Kilusan Mangbubukid ng Pilipinas, and Amihan National Federation of Peasant Women attended the rally. They believe that the focus should be on addressing food supply issues in the country instead. The groups also called on the government to enhance initiatives like Kadiwa to enable more Filipinos to have access to affordable goods. Cash remittances by overseas Filipino workers rose in May. The Bangko Sentral reports that May remittances amounted to almost 2.5 billion pesos. This is higher by 2.8% compared to the 2.43 billion peso yielded in the same month last year. This figure is the highest since March 2023, when remittances reached over 2.6 billion pesos. The increase in remittances is driven by inflows from the US, Singapore, and Saudi Arabia. Analysts attribute this to slowing inflation in OFW's host countries, as well as better digital banking services. The BSP sees remittances growing by 3% this year. The Finance Department reports that Canadian pension funds and other financial institutions are looking to invest in the Philippines. Finance Secretary Ben Diokno said this after he and the rest of the economic team met with business representatives from the US and Canada last week. Pension funds that are keen to invest in the Philippines include FinDev Canada, Ontario Teachers Pension Plan, and OP Trust, among others. The agency said these firms showed, quote, keen interest in the Philippines, public-private partnership opportunities in infrastructure, investments in sustainability and energy transition, and sovereign issuances in the pipeline. In his economic briefing in Toronto last Thursday, Diokno noted that the government is pushing for Congress's approval of the proposed Public-Private Partnerships Act before the end of the year. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Diego Castro. Heads up motorists. Oil companies are raising pump prices today, July 18. Diesel products are now more expensive by 2 pesos and 10 centavos per liter. Gasoline is also up by 1 peso and 90 centavos and kerosene by 1 peso and 80 centavos. This marks the second consecutive week of price hikes for diesel and kerosene. The increase is attributed to Saudi Arabia's commitment to cut oil production this month. Makati Mayor Abby Binay believes that Taguig does not have the capacity to service some 300,000 Embo residents. Recall that the Supreme Court has ruled with finality that the Embo barangays are part of Taguig City. With this, Binay told the big story that residents in these barangays will no longer be eligible for benefits they have enjoyed as Makatizens. These include free hospitalization and tuition fees, including school supplies and uniforms. Binay noted that the Embos are currently not self-sufficient. Thus, Taguig will have to find ways to ensure that its residents will receive the same benefits.
Almost 8 billion pesos ang kailangan nila to be able to finance my 322,000 constituents. The taxes generated in that area is so small, it's so negligible as compared to the social services that's being received by that area.
Binay also clarified that the University of Makati as well as the Hospital ng Makati will still cater to Makatizens since it is owned by the city. This despite the fact that the facilities are located in the barangays now under Taguig's jurisdiction.
The university and the hospital will still be owned by the city government of Makati that will cater to Makati residents. I will not be able to cater to the residents living in the Embos. Taguig will have to pay for their tuition if they are studying in the University of Makati. Taguig will have to pay for their hospitalization if they end up in hospital ng Makati.
Following water supply interruptions due to lower dam levels, Maynilad earmarks 1 billion pesos for deep well projects this year. The funds will be used to reactivate existing deep wells and construct new ones to generate more water supply in time for the El Nino. The concessionaire expects to produce an additional supply of around 32 million liters per day. The expected additional supply is reported to be enough to supply the water requirements of 175,000 households. And those are the top business stories of the hour. I'm Diego Castro. Join us again at 2 p.m. We are One News. All sides, all the time.